Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and following the 3 H's of the channel, which are happy, healthy, and hydrated. And in this video, the encounters, while not all in the woods, definitely give you the feeling of being hunted. So, if that sounds like something you're interested in, pull up a stump with me and let's get into it. Thank you for watching. So I've got a creepy story for you guys. This happened to me in 2018, but I can still recall pretty much all the details. I was 20 years old, and I was still living in the UK. I was going through life without a purpose. I didn't have a full-time job, nor any plans to get one. I was lying in my bed awake, depressed and all that stuff. I decided I wanted to go walk around my town at 1 a.m. So I head on out, and from here we'll skip ahead until about roughly an hour into this walk. I was contemplating my life and thinking about past memories, trying to figure out where it all went sideways. Then I notice a tunnel off the side of the pavement. I decide to go have a look. As I'm walking over, I get really weird feelings like anxiety and paranoia. I'm around 10 feet away from the entrance of this tunnel. There's a light on somewhere in the tunnel, but it's kind of flickering. I catch a whiff of all those weird tunnel or sewer smells coming from inside. The paranoia that I was feeling intensifies. And then I think, what am I doing? Why am I out here? I'm standing in the entrance of this tunnel, and then I notice something. How quiet everything has gotten. It's like somebody pressed mute on all the sounds around me. I snap my fingers by my ears, but I can't hear anything. Then I notice that this light keeps flickering, and I think, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm out. I go to turn around. I hear a voice that's not my own in my head say, "Don't leave." I'm hit with sudden extreme feelings of pure fear, fight or flight. I turn around again to face the tunnel, and I swear I can see someone or something humanoid standing further down in the tunnel. The light is flickering, so I can't get full focus on whoever or whatever this thing is. But I can see that this thing is insanely tall, and it has really long and thin arms that seem to just drape by its side. They appear to be leaning or crouching. I'm 6'3", and this thing has to be a good foot taller, even when crouching. I think, F this, all of this. I turn and start booking it. I feel like I'm running like a track star, and I feel like I've been running for ages. Eventually, I make it back toward my house. A few days later comes the really screwed up part. I go to try to find this tunnel with 2 friends of mine. I go to the area where it was, and there's no tunnel to be found. We looked around for over an hour and couldn't find a single trace of a tunnel in that area. Alright, here we go. I feel silly even writing this down, but it happened, and it's still confusing, bizarre, but this is what I think is a supernatural encounter. So I was 17 years old. My dad loves to hunt, and I would always go with him. We've had a real bad string of not getting drawn for any hunts, so after another year of not getting drawn, Dad just buys some expensive tickets to hunt this area on the local res. It's kind of a splurge, but it was my dad, and he could afford it. The land was beautiful, perfect. We keep spotting deer all over, but no elk. We only got tags for elk. I was okay with it. To be honest, my favorite part of hunting was just walking around and spending time with my dad. He was a surgeon when I was a kid, so I spent a lot of my childhood not really even knowing him. I didn't really know who he was. He just came home to eat or sleep. So anyway, we walk around all week, and it absolutely runs me ragged. And then on this specific day, we get to this nice meadow, and my dad says that he's going to take a nap in the shade. He tells me to keep an eye on the meadow, because elk wander into them all the time. So I was just chilling there, kind of just vibing out in the beauty, when I see some movement. I peek at it through my scope. It's just another herd of deer. I take my finger off the trigger. I know I shouldn't have even had it on the trigger if I wasn't going to shoot it, but I'm safer now. I didn't know then. And I just watch them through the scope. A few minutes later, all the deer scatter, just bolt, absolutely terrified. This was weird, but neat. I thought maybe there's another predator nearby, maybe just a bigger animal. I wasn't too worried. My gun is honestly stupidly big, even for elk. I was mostly just curious. I wait to see more movement. Eventually, I finally see something move across the clearing. I look through the scope at it. It looks like just another deer. It looks a little bit funny, but not like weird or bad. The more I watch it, the more I realize it's kind of gangly. It moves a little funny too. Deer are generally pretty graceful. This thing just kind of bumbles. I honestly just assumed that it was young or something. It walks a little more into the clearing and then stops. And then it looks directly in my direction, right at me, through the scope. This was really weird. I was a good 400 meters out and in the shade. It shouldn't even be able to see me, and it shouldn't be able to catch any lens glare at all. I watch in confusion as this deer rears back on its hind legs, and the front legs kind of twist. I've seen deer go back on their hind legs before, many times, but they can't put their front legs at their sides like humans can, and this thing does just that. The posture still isn't human because it's a deer, and it doesn't have a center of weight like that, but somehow it can pull its hooves on its side, and it just stands up and looks at me, and then bolts across the clearing, even though it's on two legs, even though it looks ridiculous, ludicrous even. It's moving way faster than a normal deer. If I had to eyeball it, I'd say this freak hit 30-ish. I get a long period to look at it, 20 seconds at least. It has this super forward-leaning sprint of sprinters, but it's a deer on two legs. It's not moving toward me, it's just headed across the clearing. I don't know why I didn't shoot it. I think part of my brain was still worried about the elk versus deer thing, and how we only had tags for elk. It sounds really dumb saying it out loud, but I wasn't really worried. I was just baffled and kind of grossed out by seeing all this. After it's gone, I tell my dad about it. He doesn't believe me at all. He thinks I'm either joking, or I must have hallucinated it. I did only have 4 hours of sleep that night before, and I was a major insomniac all throughout high school, and sleeping anywhere besides my bed in my house made it worse. We walk out to the meadow to look for footprints. All we find are the pair of prints from where I saw it on 4 legs. Nothing from the 2-leg stance stage. The only weird detail is that the area that it went through had a weird smell that both me and my dad noticed. It smelled like bleach and old pennies. It was weird. I generally don't believe in really anything. I'm not religious or anything like that. I generally don't put a lot of stock in the supernatural, but this shook me up. It has me questioning everything, even though it was years ago. Weird stuff. About 22 years ago, way back in 2003, me and some college friends decided that we should go camping. It would be a great time of year for it. We were sort of spread out across the state, but we always found a way to meet up at least once a year. During this time, we were going to stay the night in Sam Houston National Forest. They have campgrounds, but that's for pussies. Me and 2 friends, a couple, were going to set up the campsite the first night, and a whole bunch of other people were going to be showing up the next day. We have a few cars to save on gas. So we set up our site near this stream in a clearing. It was around 6 p.m. The girl starts complaining that she feels sick. The husband is concerned, like she feels like absolute shit, and that she has a seizure disorder and all this other stuff as well. They decide to go to the urgent care clinic in town, and then go home, and then figure if she's feeling better, they'll come back the next day for the party. So basically, it's just me holding down the fort until 16 or so friends show up sometime tomorrow afternoon, I think. Great, right? I'm no stranger to being waylaid in the woods, so this wasn't too bad a deal to me, even though I don't really like camping alone. But on the plus side, I did have a case of Shinerbach and my SKS, so I built myself a fire. I started drinking and just chilling with my SKS. It was honestly a quiet and beautiful night. I could see the stars in the clearing. While grabbing another beer, I see something just out of the firelight. Eyes. Red reflections in eyes. I've dealt with coyotes before. I know that they don't come into the light. They're cowards. But as my eyes get used to looking at the dark, I spot another pair, and another, and another. All told, I'm looking at 5 sets of eyes, enough to qualify as a pack. I throw some more wood onto the fire, and they seem to retreat back into the shadows. But they're still out there, in the trees. And weirdly enough, they were totally silent. No yips, no anything. Not even bugs either. Just after I saw the eyes, all the other forest sounds seemed to fade out. I got my SKS in low ready, trying to stare them down. And then I watch as one set of the eyes rises up, like a man getting out of a crouch. And I thought, what the hell? I've never seen a coyote stand up on its rear legs before. It's still moving around a bit. I can hear it rustling now. While I was watching whatever this was, the others stood up as well. And all of a sudden, I'm not so sure that I'm dealing with coyotes anymore. I call out, "Who the F is there? I'm armed." Of course, no answer. I've been in this standoff for what feels like 10 minutes, and then I begin to hear something. It starts far off and gets a little bit closer, but I still couldn't make out what it was. It was whispering. I couldn't hear what was being said. If you've seen Lost, it was kind of like that, but not really, just the gist of it, I guess. I feel like I'm just unable to discern what's being said. Eventually, it stops, and then I hear a loud rustling from one set of the eyes. It looks like it's coming closer. Whatever those eyes are attached to is tall, really tall. It's coming closer. I fire off a couple of shots straight toward them. I can't see the things anymore. I throw more wood on the fire and make it huge. I stay awake until dawn, gripping my SKS hard enough to make my knuckles white. The bug noises come back eventually, or maybe my hearing came back after the gunshot. Who knows? Morning finally comes. There's blood. Really, really dark red on the leaves. Almost black. I guess I got at least one good shot off. The blood trails into the woods a bit. I could follow the drips to the stream, and then nothing. 16 friends from college followed the people who left last night's directions to the campsite. What they find is 3 tents, a burnt-out fire, some empty bottles, and a paranoid redneck standing guard with a rifle. They set up all their stuff. A couple of guys noticed the blood trail. I tell them that there was a hog that got too close for comfort. One guy says, "Your aim must be awful. You hit the tree this high twice." I looked. I was shooting 8 feet up the tree. I laugh it off. I'm paranoid as hell the whole weekend. I never get drunk, and I don't let my rifle more than 5 feet away. Ask that the next time we just go to someone's house. Apparently, there's a local tribe that has lived in the area for thousands of years. I've still never got around to it, but I want to go there and ask their stories about what I saw. But, again, I haven't got around to it yet. Maybe someday. I grew up on a farm. We had sheep, cows, horses, and lots of other stuff too. We bred the sheep on a schedule so that they could start having lambs around January, and most are done by early May. This means that the early ones are born when it's still cold out though, so we have to go out a couple of times every night just to check on them and see if any new ones were born. I was in high school and I stayed up late all the time anyway, so usually it was me that took the first shift, sometime in between 1 and 3 a.m., just depending on when I went. That night, I had been playing Silent Hill. It had just come out and it was still brand new and definitely creeped me the hell out. So after like 6 hours of playing that, I had to go out to our pastures at around 2 a.m. or so to look for new lambs. The weather was very foggy and kind of cold and misty, pretty much just like Silent Hill. This probably didn't help me be clear-headed, but I definitely didn't dream this up or anything. Anyway, I got there and I spent some time walking the pastures with my flashlight. Everything seemed fine, honestly. There was nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that shouldn't be there, no new lambs anywhere. And then I hear something. A scream in the woods. This scream was in the woods of a connected pasture that was separated by a fence. It wasn't a human scream. It also wasn't an animal scream of anything that I've ever heard. I had lived on that farm literally my entire life, and I've never heard that noise. I was, of course, a little freaked out, but I was trying to think rationally. We kept some cows in that pasture, and cows will occasionally get stuck in the mud or something or other. If they are separated like that, they will bellow for the others. If you've ever had cows or been around them enough, you probably know this too. I figured I should explain my thinking for everyone else. Anyway, I started trying to think of an explanation for that sound, and I was wondering that maybe is one of the cows stuck and just making a really spooky noise. I thought that maybe one of the cows had gotten stuck a while ago, and maybe they had bellowed themselves hoarse or something. The sound was like a dry, raspy scream. It honestly sounded like the undead witch screaming, but I was trying to think of something more realistic that could be making it. I figured if it was a cow, then I was obligated to go get it some help, or go get more help if I couldn't do anything. So I headed towards it with my light. I got to the creek, and I saw nothing. The noise, however, kept coming. Every 4 to 5 minutes I would hear it. As I had gotten closer to the creek, I could tell that it was right there in that area, but I still wasn't able to see anything. Once I actually got to the bottom of the ravine, though, I realized then that the sound was moving. It was going further away from me. At this point, I'm positive that it's not a cow stuck, since it's moving, but I'm just really curious now as to what unidentified animal that I've never encountered on the farm that I grew up on could make these hellish screams. So, I head deeper into the woods with my light. The thing keeps screaming. Every 4 or 5 minutes, like clockwork, it screams. And almost every time, it's moved in a different direction away from me. At that point, I was just thinking that it's definitely just some animal that I've never seen, or an animal that's afraid of me and my light bumbling around in the woods. But I was determined to see the source of it at least once. I started trying to cut my light off so I don't scare it. The moon was bright enough that I could still see just enough to walk around kind of clumsily. It seemed like it that it was working too. I was able to get closer and closer to it. It kept moving though, and it kept screaming, but slowly I was gaining on it. I thought that I was right at it at one point. So I had my light off, and I somehow ended up right in the middle of some short pines. They were so thick that I couldn't see anything, and I couldn't feel my way through them. It was thick enough that I would have to cut them, or at least run through them hard enough to break a bunch of limbs all at once. I turned my light back on, and I started looking, and I swear I was 100% surrounded on all sides by these trees. It was like I stumbled through some hole that immediately grew back in behind me. I just remember turning in a circle multiple times with my flashlight, thinking, how is this possible? How did I get out here? How could I get inside these trees in the dark and see no way out with a light? At this point, though, I can still hear the thing screaming. It's moved maybe 20 meters away and stopped. It's just sitting in one spot still, screaming every few minutes. It's not really doing anything anymore. I kind of stopped worrying about it, and I was trying to find my way out of this effing pine tree labyrinth that I somehow got myself into. I don't know how long I followed the thing, or how long I was using my light to try and find a hole to push through the trees, but while I was stuck in the trees, my light died. I was still calm for a bit, just thinking, well, I got in with no light, I'll have to get out without one. And I kept trying to find spots between trees that I could push through and get out from them. But then, the scream started moving again, and every time, instead of moving away from me, this time it seemed closer. Now, I was starting to get really freaked out. I was thinking that I had made a horrible mistake, coming all the way out here, trying to catch a glimpse of this thing, to search for whatever was making this noise. I started breaking through limbs and stuff as fast as I could, so I'm definitely making a lot of noise, but every scream is closer than the last one. It definitely didn't seem to be scared by me being loud anymore. Eventually, this thing was in the trees with me, maybe a few feet, just still screaming every few minutes. But I still never saw anything, and at that point, I didn't even want to. I just wanted out of these woods, or at least out of these tightly growing pine trees where I could move freely and see with the moonlight. But whatever that thing was, it was right beside me and screaming right at me. Every time I broke through a spot or moved a bit, it stayed right with me, but all it ever did was follow and scream. Eventually, I busted through enough of the trees that I could see and I could move a little easier, and I just ran in a straight line for the closest open field where I could see a lot better. That thing was still screaming like it was right on a schedule, but this time it didn't follow me out of the woods. It just stayed there, right in those thick pines, screaming. I actually did hear it one more time a few nights later, but I let it be that time. I was down at our main barn, and it was right there where it had been the other night, so it would have been half a mile or so from me, but I could still easily hear it. Then, after the second experience with it, the second hearing of it, I never heard it again. I never once saw what it was, or figured out any explanation that made any sense to me. So what did you think of those encounters? What do you think he saw that was taking the shape of a deer? What do you think it was that was following him in the woods, that was screaming, seemingly at an interval, almost like on a schedule? And what exactly do you think was going on with the tunnel? And of course, finally, what do you think was out there in the Sam Houston National Forest? Let me know down in the comments. And if you have stories of your own, you can always send them to the email in the description below. Also down there are links to donate to the channel, as well as memberships and super thanks here on YouTube. And there's a new feature that you can hype a channel that you like, and what I think it does is that it just kind of tells YouTube to recommend that channel more. So if you chose to do that to my channel, I am eternally grateful. It really helps the channel out, but what also helps the channel out, liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing the video, telling all your friends about it, and all that great stuff. And I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for pulling up a stump, and I'll see you in the next one.